the last topic of this show that has now been moved up is OG Anunoby leaving the Knicks? And we still don't have the answer to that right now, but just to recap the news that we got earlier, the Nets agreed to trade Mikal Bridges to the Knicks for Bojan Bogdanovic, a first-round pick, unprotected first in 2025, 2027, 2029, and 2023, and a 2025 protected Milwaukee first-round pick, and a 2028 unprotected pick swap, and a 2025 second-round pick. The Nets got a haul back for Mikal. The New York Knicks now have Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart. It's called the Villanova Knicks for a reason. Now, this is a two-part question for you guys. Do you think that with this move, the Knicks can now compete with Boston next year? What do you think about Mikal Bridges, how he fits with New York, and if they'll be able to re-sign OG Anunoby? And I'm looking at my fellow Knicks guy across the room right now, and Mr. Drew, you got the Knicks jacket right behind you. Bro. And what do you think about it?
We need OG back. First things first, we need OG back in the building for the fact that we can pair Mikal and OG to guard these wings on the Boston Celtics, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. There's something about being built to beat a certain team, and we saw that with Minnesota and the Denver Nuggets, where Minnesota wasn't able to ultimately get the job done and move on to the finals, but they were built to beat the Denver Nuggets. Now, if you look at the roster construction of the New York Knicks, if they were to retain an OG Anunoby, this is a team that is constructed to beat the Boston Celtics. I don't know if I would go full-blown and say that 100% the Knicks would go to the finals, but it becomes a big coin toss depending on the following moves made by the Knicks. It would be Jalen Brunson. You'd have Dante DiVincenzo, off the bench Josh Hart. Running the three, you'd have Mikal Bridges, power forward. I'm more than okay with running OG at the 4 and then at the 5 with the idea that most likely you will be losing Hartenstein, Mitchell Robinson, and or Julius Randle, and then off the bench you can have Mitchell Robinson play the 5 off the bench. Like I mentioned, Josh Hart off the bench, Deuce McBride off the bench. This is a deep roster from the New York Knicks that has star power with great defensive versatility. It's all about bringing OG back, though. If you do not bring back OG, this offseason becomes a failed one, in my opinion. Mikal is a great player. I think he's a great complementary piece. We saw that with the Phoenix Suns already, but you gave up 6 potential first-round picks to acquire Mikal Bridges. You are going all in on this window that you have with Jalen Brunson being one of the best players in the league. You need to maximize it. You need to not be hesitant on giving guys like OG Anunoby top dollar and $40 million a season, because this is your window to compete. It's been a while since we've been talking about the Knicks being true contenders for a championship. You've already decided to go all in with one move of trading 6 firsts for Mikal Bridges to recreate the Nova Boys back in New York. But now the next step in that is bringing OG back. And the next step in that would be solidifying that front court. But this was a great move, I would say, all in all, from the New York Knicks bringing in Mikal Bridges. But it will only be a perfect move if OG Anunoby does resign.
You don't trade 5 first-round picks and a second-round pick if you aren't going all in to win a championship. You don't go all in to win a championship if you let a player of OG Anunoby's caliber walk in free agency for nothing and have a chance to join another contender who can now maybe haunt you if you guys meet up again. The Knicks were 20-3 with OG Anunoby, and it's no question how elite he is as a defender, what he means to New York, averaging almost 15 points per game. Mikal Bridges in Phoenix was a great role player. Came second in Defensive Player of the Year in 2022. He's an awesome wing defender. He's gotten much better offensively since that point. I feel as if the Knicks made this trade to now bring in a second, third scorer for Jalen Brunson, because it could be Julius Randle one night. It could be Mikal Bridges one night, who's carrying the other load. We got DiVincenzo. I mean, we got a lot of good players. I feel as if we all know Mikal Bridges can still play defense at a high level, but if you bring OG back, you now put less stress on Mikal Bridges on the defensive side of the court. He's able to be maximized offensively while still being able to be locked in on defense in certain crucial possessions. I feel like this was a great trade. You now have Brunson, Mikal, OG, and Anunoby. That's one of the best wing duos in the league. Julius Randle, All-Star, Isaiah Hartenstein. He might not come back, but we still have Mitchell Robinson, and there's centers in this draft that we could potentially draft. We still have a first-round pick in 2024. The Knicks arguably got the best bench in the NBA, and we got 3 all-star players, and Jalen Brunson, Randall, and Mikal Bridges, because I think Mikal Bridges is an all-star caliber player, Riv. Yes, he is. You better respect Mikal Bridges. And I know that...
I was trying to figure out where you was going
I know that the Suns version of Mikal is what's in everybody's head, and they probably look at the Nets tenure as empty stats, but no. When he left Phoenix, he was getting much better, and he was averaging 18 a game, even with D-Book on the court. D-Book and Chris Paul kind of were hurt in that time period, but they were winning games and he was scoring points and he was very efficient for them. With the Nets, he had to carry the whole load. But now with Jalen Brunson on the team, I mean, these guys have won a championship before in the college ranks. And I just have a feeling that they're going to win a championship in the professional ranks too, as a group, as a unit. The Step Brothers podcast. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Knicks, man. This is a great move. This is a great day for the Knicks.
You tried to sneak the all-star shit, and I respect that.
That was wicked.
For starters, definitely.
I am a diehard Mikal Bridges.
It was a good move. Definitely a little crazy with the draft haul. Definitely overpaid for sure, but sometimes you gotta overpay if you want to win the big one. You know, sometimes you gotta overpay if you want to get the right move, and I do think this was the right move for you guys. This is all like Drew emphasized. I think it's an important piece. This all doesn't matter if OG doesn't come back, you know, because I think Mikal would be dope as the number 2 defender. I still think he's going to have to check guys. But I think really this only matters against Boston. You know, I think realistically you get OG back, you're probably the number 2 team in the East. You're going to be talking about the Knicks versus Boston probably all year. That's going to be tough. I do think bringing Hartenstein back would be dope too, but you have the 2 first-round picks. You know, you do have the luxury of having Mitch on a pretty cheap deal. You know, and you still have Jalen Brunson, who just had arguably an All-NBA first-team like year. So this was a good move for the Nets. Finally picking a direction, you know, finally going with the straight rebuild, getting the haul back, continuing to make more moves. And you have other players that you can move off of to get more picks. And I think the Nets finally realizing this direction, you know, where reports have been, we're going to build around Mikal Bridges. I'm glad those were all fake. And I'm glad they decided to go that route. I do think OG, Bridges, they provide that 2-wing tandem on defense that's going to be really tough for teams. My only problem would be for the Knicks is outside of Jalen Brunson, is Mikal a legit creator for them? That's going to be the only situation for them, but defensively I think they'll be fine. And Julius Randle in the playoffs, is he going to show up? We didn't unfortunately get that question answered this year because he did get hurt. So that's, you know, having Randle, having Mikal, who's going to show up for them in that second to third spot. But all in all, this is a great move for the Knicks. I like the lineups that they can put out there. I'm excited to see how they play.
There's so many different parts of this trade. I think one thing that's absolutely huge to talk about is you don't trade Emmanuel Quickly and RJ Barrett for just 23 games of OG Anunoby. The Knicks currently buy spot rack with $45 million underneath the first apron and $56 under the second. I look at this trade for the Knicks. Let's say OG Anunoby walks for nothing in free agency. You lose him. You still upgrade off him with Mikal Bridges because you're getting a durable version of OG. In the postseason, he was not around when he got eliminated by the Pacers in round 2. You're also getting another shot creator, and I think Mikal Bridges as a third option offensively fits perfectly in. In Phoenix, he was a third option, and like you mentioned before, he's gotten better in the in-between space, a decent decision maker, and just an amazing off-ball player. And if he's going to play every single night, you're going to get that high-level to elite off-ball defense, and of course, on the ball, one of the best defenders in the NBA. But there's one huge part of this. I think this is what it comes down to. The Knicks looked at the Celtics and said, we need to beat them. And the best way to do that is by having Mikal Bridges guarding Jason Tatum and then OG Anunoby on Jaylen Brown. Then at times you could throw Josh Hart and Deuce McBride on those guys. But they looked at the Celtics duo, and Dante DiVincenzo is another good defender, and said,
small.
We need, okay, but for a possession or two, he's fine on a switch. They looked at the Celtics and said, we need to defend them. And specifically, with these 2 wing defenders, we now officially can. I think Julius Dante DiVincenzo is your 4, and then Mikal Bridges your 3 is enough offense for the Knicks to win a championship. It just comes down to this team staying healthy. They went down 6 rotation players this postseason. The name of the game is staying healthy. You're, of course, not going to win. But if they do, I think this team can easily win a championship.
You know, before you go, JC, the Knicks were going to make the conference finals this year.
I agree.
Even
100%.
with Julius Randle
100%.
not being hurt and OG Anunoby being a little bit hobbled, we were still going to make the conference finals this year.
100%.
Dante and Josh Hart now go to the bench. And Julius Randle and Mikal Bridges are starters for us with OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson. The Knicks have done a perfect job trying to build a championship roster around Jalen Brunson. When you're building around a smaller guard like this who is a second-team All-NBA performer, could have been first team. He was one of the 6 best players in the NBA this season. This is the ideal roster. Wing defenders, shooters, spacing, creation, great bench. And they're doing a great job at building around him and making sure that he has a chance to lead the Knicks to the NBA Finals.
Yeah, this trade for the Knicks, I think is a great trade. This kind of reminded me, even though it's like we're a couple years removed, but this kind of reminds me of how everybody in the Western Conference was just looking at Golden State dominating. Houston was like, nah, we're going to assemble a team that can compete with these guys and push them to the limit. And there was, a couple of times there was 1 year the series went to game 7, 3-2, Chris Paul got hurt. But while everybody in the West was just like, man, let's just punt these next 4 years, Houston was very adamant on going all in to try to take that team down. Obviously, it wasn't successful, but I'm getting the same vibes with this trade from the New York Knicks. If you can bring back OG Anunoby, like we were saying, you have 2 of the best wing defenders. You have Mikal Bridges, when he's locked in, is a great defender. OG Anunoby, he's a fantastic defender. In isolation, I think he was holding people to like 37% when he was
the best isolation defender in basketball.
The best isolation defender in basketball. Yeah. The Knicks were definitely going to go to the ECF last year. I mean, their whole team was just depleted. But this team is perfect. I mean, you got Jalen Brunson, who's an elite scorer. Now you got Mikal Bridges, who on the Nets, first stint in 27 games, averaged 27. I'm not saying he's going to average 27, but Mikal Bridges can get you 18 to 21 points per game. I do believe that. Julius Randle, we know he's a good scorer. Like John said, the name of the game is for the Knicks to stay healthy. But across the board, this is the perfect roster construction to take down a team like Boston. We can sit here and say you overpaid or whatever, but if you want a chance at a championship, sometimes you have to overpay. Hopefully for you guys, it doesn't end up like how the Nets were with our big 3 or whatever, and it just blew up in our face. But this is a trade that I know every Knicks fan is on board with right now. I'm not even a Knicks fan, and I'm on board with this trade. This team is sensational, great coaching. You got elite shooters. Like, this roster is fantastic. So I think this is a great trade for the Knicks.